I have you now.
They want to mess with my droid. They're going to pay for it.
This is the way.
You may fire when ready.
Blow that piece of junk out of the sky!
The way you're fighting, you wouldn't have lasted long.
Hello there.
Kenobi!
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Cal Kestis is back in his first sequel game after the hit that was Jedi Fallen Order. We're getting Jedi Survivor. Set 5 years later in 9BBY, it takes place right alongside Kenobi, and it's set to be one of the hottest games of this year. Coming out March 17th of 2023, and we're here to talk about it. I'm here with my co-host Colin. Colin, when you saw that trailer, what was your very first reaction?
I like the new characters in this thing, good and the bad. There's a bunch of cool, new, interesting... we don't even know the alignment. There could be multiple factions. And we didn't even see anything from any characters from the first trailer we got. The Powan, you know. Just the plethora of characters that introduces in these games is what I'm most interested in.
I know, it makes the world feel much more vast when we play games like this. And the other thing, the flip side of that, well, first we get many new creatures. Also, it looks like we're going to get to talk about a forest wampa. There's like an orange rhinoceros creature. So we're going to continue with the beast fights in this game, which are, I think, an integral part of Star Wars.
Right. And Cal Kestis is also taming the characters and utilizing. There's a flying one he's holding on to, flying down off of a cliff with, and then we see mounted combat where he's a tamed animal he's riding and combating stormtroopers. That's way cool.
I know. It's an exciting scene. It's very cool. And on the flip side of all these new characters introduced, I want to know, and the game's going to reveal, what happened to the old characters. Where's Marin? Where's Grease? We see Seer. She's the only one we see.
And she looks battered. She's got scars on her face. Her hair's missing. She seems kind of, looks like they haven't interacted with each other in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. This game just leaves us with so many questions. And they took a bold step and a good step, and they put a long gap between these. You know, the Star Wars movies, all of them except for Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, have at least a year between them. And it makes for better character development and an easier to tell story. And so I think that this being set 5 years after is going to allow us to tell a much more interesting story, and it's going to be really exciting to see. But we're going to have a lot of questions about what happens between these two games.
Right. And I guess a second thing I'm looking forward to is the combat system. You know, this trailer is a gameplay trailer, and also some cinematics. And what we see as far as the gameplay is they have revamped and enhanced all the force interaction mechanics. One of the first things we see is Cal Kestis picks up a stormtrooper while he's firing a blaster minigun with a shield and aims him at some other stormtroopers to kill him.
Right. Yeah, Cal is really...
Yeah, we mentioned the mounted combat. The boss fights are going to be cool. There's a lot this thing has to offer. That's above and beyond Fallen Order.
I think Cal's going to be obviously he's going to be a much more fleshed out Jedi. He's a full Jedi Knight now. He's Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker. He's Season 3 Rebels Kanan. Like, he knows what being a Jedi is. He's not a master, but he is definitely a Jedi Knight now. And so getting to see his advanced Force abilities is really cool. And I'm really excited to see that. And I'm happy to see BD1 is still tagging along with him.
Yeah. Isn't that one of our discussions in the past, if we could choose a droid to have? I think both of us are wanting to pick this BD1 because it's so compact and
I know, he's
portable.
Great. He's a great... Yeah, he's a really good... R2's kind of clunky. He's a little big. BB-8's still a little big. You can't have 3PO walking around. That'd be annoying anyway. So BD-1 is just the perfect size for your day-to-day, what you need in a droid.
I tell you, if I had an X-Wing Starfighter, R2-D2 would be my choice, but being that we exist in the world, a BD-1 type droid would be my favorite.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So, this game is, I mean, it's just really exciting that we're getting to see this. You know, there's a lot of Star Wars video game fans out there. And since Disney took over the property and we had the problems with EA having a little bit of exclusivity in the Battlefront games, we're now, you know, we're coming to a time where Lucasfilm has said that they want to start releasing a Star Wars game every 6 months. So we got Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. That's actually the inaugural episode of our podcast is talking about that game. So we're going to our roots with this episode, and we're talking about another game, but we're only talking about the trailer. We're going to give you guys a full glimpse into what it's like to play Jedi Survivor here in a few months in March. We'll be streaming it. Colin will be streaming it. I'll be streaming it. We'll make sure that you guys are getting ample Jedi Survivor screen time with us because we're super excited to play this game. I mean, it's going to be really, really exciting. And I can't wait to get my hands on it. Colin, I want to know what you thought of the gameplay aspects of the trailer. I mean, you're a bigger gamer than I am. You have a lot of gaming expertise, so I want to know what you think about the gameplay mechanics. And do you think that we're going to have expanded mechanics? Because I have a hope of what they do.
Yeah. So what this game is analogous to in the control interfaces is Dark Souls, and since then, what has come out, what's the game everybody's playing? It's a fantasy one. That's
Elden Ring.
Elden Ring, yeah. So obviously this won't be on the level of difficulty as that, because that thing is notorious for being extremely tough. But I'm sure you can crank the difficulty up. But, you know, that thing has a lot of systems in it that are more advanced than the Dark Souls, more evolved. So, I mean, I think obviously from the gameplay in this, there's things that are more evolved. You know, the mounted combat, the force abilities. And I think just the encounters are going to be a lot better. You know, we're interacting with our environment a lot more just from the animals and from jumping around and stuff like we did before. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to all that whole aspect. And then I guess the next thing is the story. You know, we see the characters and the conflict here, both from the Empire and could be his old friends. Like you said, where are his old friends? I really liked Grease. I wanted to see him again, you know?
Right, and the Mantises crashed in this, and, you know, we're really going to need to see where things go from here. I'm excited to see where the story goes, but I don't want to leave the gameplay thing yet because I have a theory, and I'd like for you to, you know, maybe validate this or invalidate this. So in the first game, you got the variable lightsaber with the double blade, the dual wield, and the single blade, and they all did variable amounts of damage, and the dual blade blocked better. But in this one, you know, we see him dual wield. We haven't seen the double bladed in the trailer, I don't believe. And we've seen the regular lightsaber, and then we see the crossguard saber. And after he ignites the crossguard saber, what you see is his lightsaber looks longer, and it looks like a claymore. So I'm curious. Oh, we do see the double blade, actually, when he's fighting some droids. So we have 4 different kinds of lightsabers in this. I'm curious if you think the different lightsabers will be analogous to different forms of combat. You know, light, medium, heavy, and then, you know, a defensive style with the double blade, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know when I played Fallen Order, I went straight to the double-ended saber. It seemed kind of overpowered starting out as a new character. I kind of doubt they'll do that with this one. Or maybe not. I mean, that was one really cool thing about the last one was that your statement was true. You could do a lot of different things depending on what saber you had. So, yeah, hopefully this Claymore theory pans out. I really like that idea. It probably will give you a little bit more defensiveness, but also some offensiveness. It also could be a perspective thing and just the way this shot was. So, I guess we'll see.
Right. Yeah, it's exactly like I said. I'm hoping it's the case, but they talk a lot about hope in this trailer, so maybe that's where I should place it. But I think we should just go shot for shot through the trailer. You and I both have it pulled up right now, so we can kind of scroll through and talk about different things. And I'll just start, and we can talk about it, and we can make sure that we're on the same page as we go.
Sure.
And so, right then, opening scene, we already have to pause it because it's Cal fishing someone from a bacta tank. So we saw this in the trailer, and we see this man with the long hair floating around. There were a lot of theories on who this was. Was it Rom Koda from the Force Unleashed games? Was it there were other theories. Was it other people? Is it a Jedi? Well, the dialogue in this seems to tip us to think it's a Jedi. But Colin, what do you think about this guy when you first see this scene?
Yeah, we've already had a lot of discussion about this already. And what does he say? The Order has fallen, and so that's obviously the Jedi Order. He was imprisoned, and he won't be anymore. To me, it looks like there's an issue with his right arm. We don't ever see that, I don't think. And yeah, it looks like it's missing out of the back to tank. So he's a veteran of the Clone Wars or a victim of some other issue. Maybe he was like that. Maybe he was some otherwise fallen, had become jaded with the Order because he has animosity towards them anyway. So that seems to me like a source of conflict here between. We see him later in the trailer, so there's some conflict here. Maybe Cal Kestis wants some information from this guy. Like maybe he rescued him somewhere. Probably your first mission is you're out and about and you come across him somehow, and that what sets off the events of the game.
I think that right here is just the best opportunity for us to explore this character, because he's not in the trailer a ton. He's in the trailer for 2 scenes, I think. I think he's in the trailer for the back to tank scene, and then later when he's talking to what appears to be one of his henchmen or one of his partners. Right. But so he seems like a bad guy. He seems like, from the dialogue in the first part, I was betrayed, I was imprisoned, I was imprisoned by the one I trusted most. So, like you said, it seems that he's talking about the Jedi Order, because he mentions the Order and how it's fallen. And I see this guy, and one of my first questions is, what species is he? And so, I am not positive, but I think there could be a connection here. So, you're going to have to follow me down this rabbit trail, but also know that this is my High Republic rabbit trail that I try to take every new Star Wars property down. So, in the scene where he's speaking to the pink-faced man in the mech suit, the pink-faced alien in the mech suit, he is wearing gold robes that appear to be Jedi robes. And the era that the Jedi wore those robes in was the High Republic. He also has this pale skin, and this pale gray-skinned species is introduced in the High Republic, known as the Everini. And so the big bad guy in the High Republic is an Everini who has a grudge against the Jedi. So I don't know how this guy plays in, because he talks about the Fallen Order, and he talks about how he was imprisoned by who he trusted, but he appears to be the same species as this big bad from the High Republic era. And so,
that's
is this guy... What's that?
That's going to be an interesting tie-in.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying. We haven't seen the High Republic tied into anything else except for books and comics. And so this would be the first leap for us to get to see it go into a new property. And I don't know if they're bold enough to explore that, or if they're interested in exploring that. But it was definitely something that I think was worth mentioning. But, he's probably going to be the big bad, one of the big bads in the trailer. We have that Powin senator, and certainly there will still be red-bladed inquisitors after Cal. I mean, this is happening the same time as Kenobi. So he's going to be hunted by somebody. And so there's going to be a lot of good fights in this, lots of lightsaber fights, but we can keep watching through the trailer and keep talking about what's to come.
Yeah. So next we cut into a combat scene with droids and other things. And we
right
see
after
force
the
powers
Mantis
being
crash.
used.
That's after the Mantis crash, right?
No, this is immediately after. The big bad guy gets up, and we see some droids being cut to pieces, pushed off.
Oh, you're talking about with when he's wearing the robes. I'm sorry. This would be...
No, this is at the beginning, 22 seconds
Goodness
in,
gracious.
or 2017,
All right. I'll get
18,
there.
19. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
And then the Mantis crashes.
You're right. Yes, but we need to talk about the fight scenes we see in that. That's totally my bad. But those, you're right. Let's just go fight scene by fight scene. So you were talking about the droid attack. Please continue.
Yeah, and so this is a demonstration of some lightsaber combat, and it seems to me it almost looks like they're hacking limbs off of this droid, which is something people have wanted in a Jedi game in forever. But we see that in a couple of places. The next one is Cal Kestis lifting up
this droid.
Go ahead.
this droid itself is very significant because it's a Magna Guard droid. So it's the same guard, or the droid that guarded General Grievous on his ship in Revenge of the Sith. And so we see throughout the trailer Separatist droids. So that you've got to think that one of your missions is a Separatist droid factory, which is admittedly a little cliche. That's a plot point in a lot of Star Wars media, especially video games. It was a plot point in Star Wars Empire at War, Forces of Corruption. But it's always a cool setting, and it's always a cool scene. And so I'm super excited. I'm still on board for the old shutdown Separatist droid factory.
Yeah, and probably one of the big bads is going to be one of the smart droids or brain droids. What do they call those? That had all the tactical...
Yeah, the tactical droids.
Yeah, those are always cool.
Yeah, those are cool droids. Those are super cool.
Yeah, immediately after the droid being cut up, Cal Kestis is listing 2 stormtroopers, scout troopers in a jungle setting, straight up in the air using force powers, and flipped them around. So it'll have a stun effect, obviously, on him, so he can continue to hit them. But this also demonstrates that setting. This next scene after that is on some sort of Imperial base or starship, and a K2SO type droid is rushing. We saw these in the last game, but I still love to see them, right? Because they're big and bulky and hulking, and he force pushes the K2SO type droid and 2 stormtroopers off into one of the many pits that exist on Imperial facilities.
Right. They're no OSHA in space. That's what Star Wars has taught us.
Yeah. The next scene is a lightsaber clash between 2. It looks like a boss or a mini boss fight between a masked individual.
Right.
Another 2 tubes looking. He doesn't look. He's not an alien. He's a humanoid, but and his lightsaber hilt is kind of interesting. He has a lightsaber. It looks like maybe the other half of Cal Kestis's or something.
Well, it does look like the other half of Cal's, and it also, you just brought this to my attention while I have it frozen. On the side of his lightsaber look to be the same cross guards as the one that we see Cal get later in the trailer. So maybe this boss fight is where you get the crossguard lightsaber.
Yeah.
This guy might be some old Jedi hunter or some scavenger who finds Jedi stuff, or, someone more fearsome. But he seems to be kind of a mini boss, maybe, like you had said, where your main goal is getting that saber for some reason. But then you get the upgraded hilt along with it.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And I want to take the scenes you just talked about real quick together.
Sure.
Because it's a really quick fight compilation. I mean, you don't even finish any of the moves until you get to the lightsaber fight. And each scene, all 4 of them, look to be at a different location. And that is so exciting, because that means we're going to get to explore more. And one of the things I liked best about the original game was multiple planets. They did new planets, and they deeply explored a planet we already knew about in Dathomir. And so I want to see that again. I hope that most of the planets are new, or are planets that have been little explored, but that 1 or 2 of them is a planet we know about that we haven't really gotten in depth, and we get to really expand that planet. Because that's something Disney's been great at with all of Star Wars. So they gave Tatooine depth. They gave Ferrix depth. They gave Dathomir depth. They gave Lothal depth. They've given a lot of planets cultural depth, or just a better understanding of them, and I think that that's another thing they can continue in this game, hopefully.
Right, excellent points. And to build on that, you get to play as Cal Kestis and exist in these worlds, and you're not just a person, you're a Force adept, you're a Jedi, so you have enhanced abilities and means of which to traverse this world. And there's dangers, and there's all kinds of interactivity that made that game a lot of fun. Hitting things with lightsabers cool, but also going around and collecting things and getting power-ups to make yourself more powerful when you fight the enemies is really fun. And that's one thing this game excels at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, Fallen Order, it had a really good pacing, like you said, and I think this one will match that, because it looks like you're well into the game by the time you get that crossguard lightsaber, like you were well into the game when you got your double blade lightsaber on Ilum last time, and so I think that'll be good. So to continue, we see Cal and BD-1 flying the Mantis, And we have no idea why. Where is Grease? What's going on? Why is he not flying? And Cal obviously crashes it. One of the things I like about Cal's character is he is not a pilot. You know, a lot of Star Wars characters get default, oh, you're a pilot. Right. And I'm not just talking about Luke and Rey. I mean, there's like every character under the sun. Star Wars needs them to be a pilot so they can get around. It makes sense, but it's nice to have a character that's basically inept at flying. Not doesn't like flying like Obi-Wan, but is probably not good at it like Cal.
Yeah, and not only are they pilots, but they're sharpshooters and hyper adept and engineers who can do all these cool things, you know?
Right, exactly. We need our characters, especially our Jedi characters, to have these blind spots. And I'm not, you know, this isn't a criticism of Luke or Rey, and this isn't really a criticism of those main characters, but it is a criticism of novels and comics and video games who just have overpowered Star Wars characters. Because if you're not the lead of the movie, then you're another person in the galaxy, and so you need to have some flaws. And I'm happy that Cal seems to be a pretty flawed character.
Right, he never had the opportunity that the other Jedi Padawans had. Surely they had flight simulators and a bunch of other things. They weren't, you know, he was just with his master, and we found him on a Republic ship. So,
right, and he was thrust into the war.
Yeah.
And you know, this already one of the properties we reviewed on our podcast, everyone can go check out it, and longtime listeners will know. So we talked about the Brotherhood novel, and you know, Cal and his master are mentioned in that. Cal's a young kid, and it's really exciting at the beginning of the Clone War. It's really exciting to get to see tie-ins like that to this video game. Just super subtle stuff that makes sense. It's like in Tales of the Jedi, they had Kanan and Depa Billaba watching Ahsoka practice, right? Well, it would have just been too perfect. But I wish that Cal and Jaro Tarpal would have been there too. Like, it would have been very exciting to get to see Ahsoka, Cal, and Kanan all right there together.
Very good. Yeah, that would have been excellent. So these next scenes, you know, we had just seen the ship crash on Canyon World, and immediately after that is the scene I'm looking at is 28 seconds in, and it's the back of Cal. We're looking at the back of Cal's head. He's looking at Seer. And this seems like a really significant story plot point scene to me. You know, if I had to guess, it's at the start of the game. We're going to find out what happened. You know, we know from the scenes just previous that, you know, Grease isn't flying the ship. In the other game, you couldn't fly it. You just told him where you wanted to go, and he took you there. So it's Cal flying this, and not good, as we just saw.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Seer's not happy to see him, but she's in a bunker. She's in some sort of carved out, hollowed out place, and she's very busy as she always is. And immediately after that, we see one really cool scene. I only noticed this in the second or third watch through.
I do want to flesh out the Seer scene for a second.
Oh yeah,
if we can.
No, this is in it. It's got
got
the walls,
it. Okay, go ahead.
It's got the walls that look like the library at the Jedi Temple.
Yes,
Something
this is what I wanted to talk
forever.
about.
And so, what is she doing?
When I saw this, it reminded me of you, specifically of you, because I was recently rereading your favorite Star Wars comic book, the Darth Vader series.
Right.
And I don't know which one of the two is your favorite. I'm going to take a guess, and I'm going to say the 2017 run that takes place after Revenge of the Sith. Is that one your favorite, or is the other one your favorite?
I'd have to... I don't remember them exactly. They're all jumbled to me at this point.
I got it. They run together. I understand. So in the Revenge of the Sith one, in the one immediately after Revenge of the Sith, the 2017 one written by Charles Soule, Jocasta Nu goes and makes a new Jedi library and a new underground bunker with a bunch of books in it that looks identical to this. I mean, It looks just like this room. The bookshelf is in the same place in the room. And so in the story, in the 2017 book, it ends with the regular non-Force user that Jocasta Nu put in charge of it ending his own life in a rock slide, destroying the entrance to the cave. And then you have Luke Skywalker, and then there's one last panel at the end, and it's Luke Skywalker in his yellow jacket from A New Hope, using the Force to lift one of those rocks away. He peers through and sees all of this information in there. And so
could this be the same place?
That's what I'm saying, is that Jocasta Nu died in, I think it was 18. I think it was 18 BBY, but I don't know for sure. So she dies pretty soon after the new Empire begins, and after Order 66. And so this guy, the individual, was caretaking it for a long time. We have no idea how long he was caretaking it. We don't know if he collapsed it in and crushed everything before or after this scene in Jedi Survivor's trailer. And so I want to figure out where that is. I want to figure out what's going on here, and I want to know if that's the same place, because it looks really similar. So that's the thing I wanted. There's two things. The other thing I wanted to talk about in this scene, but I want to let you elaborate on that first.
Yeah, so as far as the scene goes, she's obviously collecting a lot of data, and Cal is probably there for some information. She's an information store who's hiding out. She remarks that, I see you're the Empire's most wanted. Oh, my caption's turned off. I hear you've been busy making yourself the Empire's most wanted. So Cal's obviously been gallivanting the galaxy, taking care of stormtroopers as he does so well, it seems like. And she's been sitting here healing her wounds, it looks like to me, from that massive fight with Darth Vader. How anybody survives a Darth Vader encounter, she's one of the few, right? And, exactly. And so she's this information hoard, it looks like to me. And so that's really all we get. I'm real interested to see what this does.
They've clearly, through the dialogue, been operating separately for a little while.
Right.
They've Cal's been maybe just out on his own. This, like we said, this could be post Gree's death, or Grease could still be alive somehow. But I don't see the problem with the crew being gone. Is there was a lot left unsaid between Cal and Marin.
Right.
At the end of Fallen Order,
at all in any trailer preview.
And there's going to be a whole book come out about the 5 years between the two games, but they are not going to stick important plot details about Grease and Marin in that book because we haven't seen them in the video game yet. And I mean, the vast majority of people who play this video game are not going to read that book.
If
less than 1%,
10,000 people are going to read the book. So
exactly. And so we're gonna see Grease and Marin, or at least get the explanation in this game. And so that's cool, but I really hope they're in it. I hope that it's not something I dare say they would never kill them off screen. We will at least get a flashback.
Yeah.
But like I said, there was too much left unsaid between Marin and Cal for me to think that this is it. But the other thing you see in this scene with Cere and Cal, when you're looking at the back of Cal's head at the very beginning of it, and you pause it, there is another person in the room.
Right.
And I didn't notice that my first watch through. It took me my second watch through to see that. Pale arms. It looks like the same skin color as the guy that we see in the Bacta tank. But the shape of the headdress and the head looks like the same shape as the Zepho from the first game. And so I am super intrigued on who this person is. They're obviously not a threat, and Cal is speaking freely in front of them. So there's some helper of Cere's.
Yeah, like
and so it leads
attendant
me to
or something.
believe. Yeah, exactly. And I think there's got to be a Zepho connection because of the headpiece. But it's an interesting shot for sure. And this is some just subtle in the side of the scene. And I don't know. It should leave viewers of this trailer with a lot of questions, I think.
Yeah, you're right. Good call out.
The game does a really good job in this trailer. I'm watching just the next few scenes right after that Cere dialogue. It does a really good job of, dialogue chunk, what's going on here, and then a really good montage of fight and gameplay and, what you can expect from the game, and then all the plot building stuff in these little scenes in between. And so I really like the way this trailer is done. I don't watch a ton of video game trailers, and I don't know if they're all like this, but this one is done well, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
But we have the little montage, and we get that awesome force power that you talked about, where he suspends the stormtrooper with the minigun blaster. And then we get to the animal taming stuff that you were also talking about, that you also referenced, which the mounted attack against the droid is just super cool. I mean, that's an awesome thing to see.
And that is the Clone Wars era droid too. First one we see.
Exactly.
Well, second one.
Yeah. Yeah, the B1. And then he's flying, and I think again these maps look very different. and they look very they're going to be very diverse, and so the creatures are going to be really diverse, and it's cool that we're getting to see how he traverses around these maps, because I'm sure some of them are going to be pretty large, because in Fallen Order, and there were some big maps. I would get lost on Zepho a lot of the time, and I think it may be one of the smaller planets.
Right, yeah, you had to go online and see, like, what am I doing here?
Right, exactly, yeah. And so it's cool to see this really good montage, and then it leads into one of the biggest question scenes for me in the game. Is maybe not the biggest questions, but this scene reminds me a lot of the bounty hunter scenes in the first game.
Yeah,
and so
that's what I was going to say. Good point.
It's good to see us dealing with the underworld in Star Wars again. I mean, the game takes aspects of Star Wars and just puts it gets it. The people who are making this game understand the flow of your classic Star Wars story, and that's underworld elements, Jedi versus Sith. It's, you know, you have a little bit of the beasts and the creatures, like is in every Star Wars movie. Like, there's just a formula to make just, you know, Star Wars, some wholesome Star Wars, and they do it with these games.
Right, and they got excellent voice actors going after this too. The guy in the purple alien with the giant red suit, he sounds amazing in this. Sounds like Ron Perlman or something.
Yes, he does. And I think he's going to be a super interesting character. And like we see a little bit later in the trailer, he's talking to the pale-skinned individual, what I assume is his boss or his partner or something, just the way they're dialoguing. And they're clearly bad guys. And so this implies that the gray-skinned guy is a bad guy, aside from his dialogue. The other thing about the purple-skinned guy is that I've seen this online, I've seen a lot of dialogue about it online, is the character Dirge from the 2003 Tartakovsky Clone Wars and some subsequent comic books, was a species of creature called a Jedi. And they have these pink faces without noses, like this guy. And the rest of their body is a series of nervous systems and muscles, and that's it. They don't have traditional organs, they don't have a bone structure, and so they have to fit into these mech suits to be able to get around. But they are basically immortal. They're impossible to kill. So maybe we see this guy multiple times throughout the game, and we just have to keep killing him.
Yeah,
because
that's
he appears to be that same creature.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That's a really cool concept.
It is. I think it's a neat plot hook. We'll see if that's where they go with it, or he might just be something else. But he does look like that, and there's a lot of people online remarking that. I wasn't wise enough to catch that, but there's a lot of people online who were.
Right. And so these guys, one of the dialogue from the Jedi character says, "Remind our friend why his kind are supposed to be dead." So, you know, most people in the Star Wars galaxy, Jedi are myth. These guys know who Jedi are. They're not afraid of them. They're supposed to be dead, and they have no qualms leaping into combat and against a lightsaber, which anybody in their right sense would be like, "Cool, man, go about your business." These guys,
right, yeah.
Nope. So they're not only they're thugs and up to no good, but they're high status. You don't get to where they are, casually. You know?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. So the trailer continues beyond that fight with this march, and then we see. I gotta pause. This is just part of the montage, but I have to pause immediately because I got pretty excited about this. I just thought it was a neat concept. I mean, it just looks like a forest wampa.
Yeah.
Like it looks identical to a wampa but brown, and it looks like we're on Kashyyyk.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of video games take us to Kashyyyk. That's exciting. I'm happy to see Kashyyyk, but we saw it in the last game. But I'm most excited to get to see the brown wampa. I just think it's a cool concept. I don't know. There's not a lot to say about this scene, other than I think that's an exciting fight. That was a creative idea that they thought of that I'm excited about.
Yeah, and Cal is getting tossed around like a rag doll in this scene. It's kind of crazy.
Yes, it is kind of crazy. The next scene leading in, we see some scout troopers running in, and behind them are the silhouettes of what appear to be dark troopers. But the scene immediately after gives us a little bit better perspective, because we know the dark troopers weren't developed until after the Battle of Endor. And so what it is Cal's fighting a precursor to the dark troopers, the DT series sentry droid. They show up in a few different things. They show up in Rebels. They show up in Bad Batch. In Bad Batch, they're training droids for the clones. In Rebels, they're training droids for Thrawn. Thrawn's practicing Terras Kasi against them. And so it's neat to see Cal fight these like precursors to Dark Troopers.
Right, and this is on a planet. It's not in space. We can at one of the scenes we can see out. It's a launch bay for TIE fighters, so we can see out onto a planetary landscape of mesas and other stuff. So it's probably the Canyon planet or something like that.
Right. Which, yeah, we know that there's an Imperial base on the planet that looks like that now. And the way the DT Trooper is fighting, or the DT Sentry Droid is fighting, is super interesting because a lot of times in Star Wars games, in Star Wars movies, a lightsaber is a lightsaber. It cuts and cauterizes the wound. But in Star Wars games, the lightsaber is a baseball bat. And they have to be that way. You obviously can't just every lightsaber strike cut something off of someone's body. But in the games, they are just baseball bats. You get hit with a lightsaber a few times, and you can keep going. And so the droids in this make for an interesting play. And he does the same thing with the Magna Guards, but it looks like he's hacking into them. Like you said, he cuts off some limbs. In this one, he cuts off the droid's legs. And so hopefully that's kind of a mechanic that they've included, is that these droids they're susceptible on the joints to lightsaber attacks. I'm very interested in the way they can take this gameplay in this game, because I think they have a lot of room for imagination in the gameplay, and I hope that they explore it, because there are some cues in this trailer that's already new gameplay that I don't remember from the first one.
Yeah, usually these are like reserved for finishing moves against bosses and stuff like that, or could be you build up a charge of some sort of ability and you get to execute a finishing move, something like that.
Yeah, and that's likely what it is.
Another thing during these scenes, it's in Cal Kestis narrating, the Empire has only grown stronger. Here, what is it? He's kind of forlorn that of all his efforts, it seems like he's spinning his wheels. He's not. After all we've done, the Empire's only grown stronger. So there's another point of conflict here that his efforts aren't being respected. I mean, obviously not. The Empire doesn't care, but he's an ant fighting Mount Everest or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's an important point, and that's a point we hear a lot about stories set during this time period, is that we keep visiting this time period. I mean, the Bad Batch, Kenobi, Andor, this game, tons and tons of material, Rogue One, Solo. This era is very well fleshed out, but it's still, we know how the story ends. We know that Luke blows up the first Death Star. We know Lando blows up the second Death Star. We know that Vader kills the Emperor. And so all these stories leading up to this could feel hollow. It's always possible that they felt hollow. They're like, well, what this character didn't matter. But they have done a good job so far of either in Kenobi exploring the inside of Obi-Wan as a person and preparing him to take Luke on as a Padawan. And in Andor, they're obviously building for the wider rebellion, and so it has meaning, just like in Rebels. But in the first Jedi Fallen Order game, we first meet Cal, so we don't have the connection to Obi-Wan like we do in Kenobi, and it's too far in the past from A New Hope to have that meaningful of an impact on the rebellion. Like, we know what the rebellion was like 5 years before the Empire, and it barely existed. And so Cal's efforts definitely seem hollow, even to the outside viewer, to me, because I don't know how Cal's story ends. I don't know how he impacted the galaxy. And for now, it just feels like saying, well, he didn't impact the galaxy that much because the Empire still got stronger, and then the rebellion still started from nothing. And so I want to know where they take it, because I know they're not going to leave Cal with some meaningless, story. This is their flagship gaming franchise. The first one was so popular. People are so excited for this one. It's been out for 7 days, and 5 million people have watched the trailer.
Right.
And so
good point.
They're going to take Cal somewhere, and I want to know where. And the trailer really illustrates, I think, how the Star Wars viewers should look at this as, you haven't done anything yet. This can't just be a flash-in-the-pan story about a Jedi. There's something bigger for Cal, and I'm excited to see what it is. I mean, for goodness sakes, the actor who voices him is identical to the video game character. They obviously want to put him in stuff.
Right. Yep, good points. So these next scenes, immediately after the Imperial scene, is we meet a new character There's an explosion, and Cal's being helped up by a Bode. What was his full name? Do you remember that? You wouldn't.
Yeah, it's Bode Akuna.
Bode Akuna. Okay, so I want to mention something here. What planet do you think this is? To me, it looks like it could be Dayu. Wouldn't that be something?
Yes, I think it looks like Dayu too. This is, a busy year for Dayu. Like I said, this takes place same year as Kenobi, so Dayu's having a busy year.
Yeah. So these two scenes immediately after this potential Dayu scene and helping him up, a cut scene is Cal stabs a stormtrooper and Bode does a parkour maneuver, gymnastics maneuver over him. And hits the stormtrooper. So,
which is such overkill. He got stabbed in the chest by a lightsaber. He's dead, man. Why? So, you kicked a dead guy.
So what this says to me is like there's some sort of tag team mechanic, and maybe there's going to be a B-roll to this gameplay where it's not just Cal Kestis, but you get to play a smuggler scoundrel type character as Bode. And do some other stuff.
That's a great theory. I hope that's true.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, I think there's even more support for your theory than you realized just now. I just thought of some further proof to cite. And that is that when they announced the deluxe version of this game and a couple other versions, a couple other, variations, the deluxe version is Han Solo and Luke Skywalker themed.
Yeah.
So you get a Luke Skywalker costume, not costume. It's his outfit from A New Hope. You get Han Solo's outfit from A New Hope, and then you get two weapons. You get the lightsaber and the blaster.
Yeah.
And so when those first were announced, it looked like the blaster could be for Cal.
Right. So there you go. That's an outfit and a blaster for the scoundrel type character in this. Good point.
Exactly. And so that's awesome. And so I really like your theory because it's gotten my gears turning. If they introduce Bode early on, then and it's Bode. Yeah, it's Bode Akuna. And so if they introduce Bode early on in the game, this is a Han Solo Luke Skywalker duo that they're going to be putting in the game.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can switch back and forth, and that's why they have the costumes alluding to that relationship. And I just you have the Jedi and the scoundrel, and that's a good combination to have.
Yeah.
We see that combination all the time. We see Kanan and Hondo. We see Obi-Wan and Hondo. We see Luke and Han. We see Rey and Poe. Every Jedi seems to have a scoundrel friend, and that's cool. That's going to make for fun gameplay if you can switch between the two mid-fight or anything like that.
All we're missing is a furry alien character.
Well, we have Grease if we know where he is.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so
all right.
Advancing on, what's next?
Next is just an awesome, more cool fight scene, cutscene elements where you fight the orange rhino. Yeah,
Rhino.
Yeah. Well, Rhino or I don't know. Well, it looks more like a Triceratops to me. Yeah, so you fight this basically just an orange dinosaur, which I got to pause again because there's a lot of news circling around Star Wars and dinosaurs. Have you heard of the new film that Adam Driver is in, Colin?
I watched the preview this afternoon. It looks really interesting.
I'm excited. It's a cool concept. It's Planet of the Apes meets Jurassic Park, and I love Adam Driver. I think he was the highlight of the sequels, and so it's cool to see him in anything, and I think that this is going to be a super cool show. Yep. Super cool movie. So
agree.
Lots of Star Wars dinosaur stuff. But anyway, if you keep moving through the trailer, we see even more B-1 battle droids and the first use of the double-bladed lightsaber, which is super exciting. And again, I think this is going to be a cool setting.
Another Force ability is using that saber to like a boomerang style attack. That's really cool looking.
Yes, it is. It's super cool.
And it chops all the droids in half. One thing you'll notice, and this isn't a criticism, it's a fact of life, in video games especially, and probably it translates to movies and TV shows, you can't cut human depicted characters to pieces with a lightsaber. Droids are fair game. It's been zombies, some other non-human character you can cut to pieces. I don't think they're allowed to cut humanoids apart.
Yeah. So. No, I think you're right. You are right, actually. It's just, and we
could,
have a lot of conversations.
They have an NC-17 rating, and we don't want that for our Star Wars.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. We've had a lot of conversations recently about the maturity of Star Wars, given the, the potential for the F-bomb being dropped in Andor.
Right.
And so I like Star Wars to stay family friendly. It does not have to stay childish. It does not have to stay kiddish. It can get dark, but there are certain lines that I am happy that it doesn't cross, and I continue to want to see that. Obviously, an NC-17 rated, limbs falling off game would be super cool, but I just don't want Star Wars to go in that direction.
Yep, you're right. So,
right after that is an important scene. It's a small dialogue scene, but it's got the guy in the High Republic robes. I will confidently say those are High Republic robes, because they don't look like anything else in Star Wars to me.
Right.
And so the guy in the High Republic robes, talking to... Yes, exactly. He's opulent. Talking to the other purple-faced character that we presume may be a Jedi. And he's holding something that looks... at the same time, it looks ancient, and at the same time, it looks really similar to the disc that the Death Star plans were on in A New Hope. It's obviously not that, but that was just a storage device. That was just some form of storing information. So...
Right.
When I see this, my brain goes in all kinds of different directions. I can't imagine what information could be on this that Cal would be concerned about unless it were the list of the Force-sensitive younglings. And then I can't imagine... I can scarcely imagine what this disc means, basically, is what I'm trying to say. If it's just a disc of information, is it blackmail on the senator, the Powin senator? Like, what is it that information at this period in Star Wars is so important? Yeah. And so I'm very interested to see what it is.
So, here's my theory about some of what the character is going to accomplish in this. He says the High Republic character says, now that we have the Jedi as a threat, and then it's kind of a disjointed dialogue thing. Now that we have this. So he's anti-Jedi, and the purple-skinned alien. It seems to me like, we encountered him earlier in the trailer, that there's a competing of getting these artifacts somehow, getting these special items that advance the story, a MacGuffin, if you will. We don't know what it is yet, but I think Cal Kestis is going to be competing with the agents of this High Republic character to retrieve different items or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good theory. I mean, especially if this guy is from a time in the past, collecting, like you put it, artifacts or items is important because that's probably relating to his past. So we're going to get to explore that a little deeper, and I'm excited to see that.
Right.
The scenes afterwards, they show us again that we're going to have Cal's time freezing ability. And he throws some droids in front of some blaster bolts. We have the same... It's kind of showing us, some of the old gameplay is still going to be there. Because we get to see him charging the repeating blaster and blocking everything while he's running. That was an old ability. And then we see what I think is a new ability, and that's him basically being Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man scene. And where is he at, do you think? The scene immediately after this, he's got on welding goggles and is sliding down. It looks like he's almost in... the ship. No, that's BD1. I'm dumb.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it looks like welding goggles to me from that angle. But I guess that's an Imperial facility. But it's almost like that he went back to the decommissioned shipyard or something. It'd be a stretch to say that this is a wrecked Death Star.
I bet I know what this is. This is the decommissioned droid factory.
Oh,
this has got to be the decommissioned droid factory, right?
There you go.
Like, that's what it looks like. And this looks to be... The Spider-Man scene is probably... Oh, yeah, you can see a B-2 battle droid in the background when he's using his lightsaber to scale down that wall. You can see a B-2 in the background. So, yeah, this is probably the decommissioned droid factory. But I think the way all those pipes are laid out and all of this scant, destroyed framework really solidifies that one of the locations we're going to is a abandoned droid factory. And I heard, and this was, I don't know if this was a rumor or if this was confirmed, but I'll go ahead and say it with the caveat, it could just be a rumor, but that the game takes us to Sereno, Count Dooku's home planet, featured in the Clone Wars. No, the Bad Batch is supposed to take us there. Got the two completely confused. Bad Batch is supposed to take us to Sereno. I don't think it said anything about Survivor taking us to Sereno, but I was going to theorize that this could be a droid factory there.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Well, that makes sense, though.
Yeah, it could, and it still could be Sereno, I guess. But so we keep going a little bit, and then we see Cal with his new Claymore lightsaber, and the dialogue goes, "Hope survives." All these Star Wars stories set during the Imperial period are obviously about hope. And then we get to see that Claymore saber in action. And like I told you, and like you said, it could be the camera angle, but it looks to me like it's just a heavy-hitting weapon.
So here's my theory on this. For one, this setting doesn't look like anything. It looks like some facility that he's maybe broken into. Things are spinning in the background. It doesn't look... I think this is another artifact that he's questioned for. And so if we're gonna bring the High Republic character in it who's been in stasis or something, I wonder if this is his lightsaber, or this is something. Maybe he finds out that this guy's collecting old artifacts, and so here's Cal Kestis. I'm going to go get this one. Here's this mythical lightsaber. I mean, this looks like some sort of opulent thing from the High Republic era that some count, or previous Count of Sereno might have. Who knows?
Right.
But, I mean, the guy was light-sided, so it's not going to be red since he was in the Order. So,
right,
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, no, that's all really good speculation. I mean, I agree with you. I don't know. I think it does look opulent, and it does look like it could be something like that. And so
he's fighting with it in the next scenes. If you pause it real slow, you can see.
Say that again?
In the next scenes immediately following this, he's fighting with that saber. You can
see,
yes,
yeah.
And it is
exactly,
a lot
and he's lugging it around. Exactly, it seems like he's
way
using
big.
It. Yeah, it's long,
a massive saber.
Yeah, I mean, he's a small, skinny guy, and it's big. He's hucking that thing around, and it's cool. He's going against the Separatist Commando droids, which are some of my favorite droids. I mean, they look great, so I'm happy to see them back too.
Yeah, you're right. It's not a camera angle thing. This thing is massive. So it's gonna have some power. I wonder if it's gonna, if it's gonna have some dark saber type properties where you can't just casually wield this thing. You have to attune with it somehow.
Right, and yeah, since they've established that with the dark saber, that can absolutely be true. This could be some, like you said, that sparks more theory. You're really good at getting me my brain.
This is why
jogging.
We have a show, Carter.
You're right.
We're not doing this for no reason.
Right. So what if the guy in stasis at the beginning is similar to Tar Vizsla in the sense that he was a unique Jedi for some reason? Tar Vizsla's was because he was Mandalorian. This guy must have been unique for some reason, and the Jedi were forced to put him into stasis. Right. They were forced to lock him up. When he gets out is when the dialogue about the Order falling. Cal probably says, "Oh, I found you, blah, blah, blah. The Order fell," and he reveals, I was imprisoned by the Jedi because of this. And that crossguard lightsaber, like you said, was his and was imbued with similar properties as Tar Vizsla's, meaning that you can't wield it unless you are using it properly or unless it's won in battle or whatever.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that he could certainly be something like that. And so maybe not even connected to the High Republic specifically, but an older Jedi, pre-Clone War, probably pre-Anakin, that has been frozen in stasis for some crime against the Order.
Right. I'm going to be really pumped if this guy's... we see him in the bacta tank. He's recovering. Maybe he's freed out of Carbonite, and Cal Kestis takes him somewhere to have him recovered or something. Pulling more people out of Carbonite's a really cool sounding... I hope we get to see it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that arm had to have been taken in some kind of lightsaber fight. I mean, that's the only way that I can
How he was subdued.
The Jedi don't kill their opponents unless they have to. They cut off their limbs. That's their thing. And so they probably I'm confident that this guy is a fallen Jedi and that he was in a conflict with the others and that's how he lost the arm. That's got to be it.
Yep. Man,
and
I got to say this analysis that we've done has at least quadrupled my desire to play this game.
Yeah, me too. This is the first in-depth look I took at this game, and I am very, very excited to play it now.
I want my artifact lightsaber. to play with in the game. It gives me some Legend of Zelda vibes where you get the special swords.
Right, right. Yeah, no, it's going to be a fun game. And I think, I don't think it's the last Jedi game. I mean, people are very excited for this game. There's a lot of hype surrounding it. There's a lot of, I don't think that Disney never appreciated this. I think Lucasfilm and Disney always got this. There was just a little bit of a rocky start with Star Wars video games when they took over. But there's a lot of people out there passionate about Star Wars video games. And there's a lot of people out there that the number one way they consume Star Wars is through video games. Right. I mean, there are people who have only ever played KOTOR. There are people who have only ever played Battlefront. There are people who look forward to Star Wars games that don't go watch every Disney Plus series. And so Disney has to be aware of this moving forward. And so hopefully we're going to get that commitment of a new game every 6 months is going to be realized.
Yeah, that'd be really nice. Yep. Can't say that I'm pumped. March can't get here fast enough. There's a lot coming down the pipe in March, it seems like. Between the first of the new year and March for sure.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There's a lot coming down the pipe in March, but there's a lot coming down the pipe in 2023 and beyond. And so that's the perfect time to take us into our HoloNet news segment.
You made the HoloNet.
Welcome back to the HoloNet news segment here on Star Wars Station Communication. Colin and I break down this week's most exciting and intricate Star Wars news stories, and we react to them in real time. So, the first Star Wars news story we have for you today is about the Wonder Woman director, Patty Jenkins. Patty Jenkins directed Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 84. Wonder Woman was a huge hit. Wonder Woman 84, not so much. And she was tapped more than a year ago to be the director of the Rogue Squadron Star Wars movie. It was going to be the first Star Wars movie to premiere after The Rise of Skywalker, and obviously it was going to be about Rogue Squadron. Patty Jenkins' father was a pilot, and she was really ready to take on this challenge. But recently, reports have come out that the Rogue Squadron movie has had huge script errors, and that the script is the direct quote is the script is a mess. And with Patty Jenkins being shuffled out of the DC expanded universe, everyone thought, Rogue Squadron's not happening. It's on the chopping block. But just today, Patty Jenkins comes out and says that Rogue Squadron is in production. Not in production, but is in development right now, and that she has no indication that it's going to stop. And so that's very interesting. We've had some really conflicting reports coming out of Hollywood this week about that movie.
That's super interesting. I really liked the first Wonder Woman movie. It had some really interesting... The Wonder Woman character is really awesome. Who's one of my favorites from DC. Superman notwithstanding. And Rogue Squadron, man, that's a lot of opportunity there. It's based off of books and comics, right? Mostly.
Yeah, well, that's what they said was they even brought in Stackpole, the author of the old Rogue Squadron books, in Michael A. Stackpole in as a consultant for the movie. And so they wanted to make them, they wanted to take from the Legends timeline and make sure that they were giving the Rogue Squadron its due. I mean, we don't have a lot of stories about Wedge or any of the other Rogue Squadron pilots during this period, so it's pretty much just free playing ground. And so this would be cool. And we'd get to see, presumably someone recast as Wedge. I don't think they're going to de-age Wedge's actor, even though they brought him back for The Rise of Skywalker. And so we'd get to follow Wedge Antilles and the rest of the gang. And just a Star Wars Top Gun. I mean, that's essentially what the movie seems like it would be. And that's cool. That's an awesome concept. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, and obviously if they're dealing with starfighter pilots, we're going to see a lot of starfighting going on. So hopefully they pull that off really well. And, a female lead, Patty Jenkins, let's put it on the table. This Wonder Woman is a very strong female character. Sigourney Weaver playing Ripley is one of my favorites. You're going to get tired of hearing me say that. And so do this right. We could put a strong female lead in here. I'd be happy to see it. It's usually like, we got Anakin Skywalker, we got Poe Dameron, We got Rey. She does a fine job, but she's a Jedi first and a pilot second, right?
Right. And we have Jyn. Jyn Erso does a wonderful job in Rogue One as the female protagonist as well. But there's always room for more.
Yeah, and so I'm pumped to see something like this. And it goes beyond representation. It's about quality filmmaking that everybody has a seat at the table.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Patty Jenkins understands how to write a engaging heroine. And so I would imagine that we'd have some just, strong characters across the board. She made Wonder Woman, who was seen by a lot of people, a lot of comic book fans, as kind of a bland character. I mean, her movie is the best DC movie as far as I'm concerned, as far as in the DCEU. If you're just considering the DC Expanded Universe, I think Wonder Woman's probably the best movie there. I haven't seen every single one. I'm not just like go watch every DC movie in the theaters, but I've seen most of them. I've seen over half, and I definitely think that Wonder Woman was the most compelling of any of them.
Yeah, it's got a good story that's atypical compared to a lot of other ones. So yeah, what's next?
So the next news story is also a little bit of trouble at Lucasfilm. We've had a lot of really good news out of Lucasfilm lately. Bob Iger's back. We've just had a lot of cool stuff going on. So we had to know, as being Star Wars fans who follow the news about Star Wars, that there's always some trepidation coming down the road. And so there's some new details revealed about Star Wars Skeleton Crew, the upcoming series that is... it's directed by John Watts, the director of Spider-Man Homecoming and the other two Spider-Man movies. And there's been some problems. There's been some crew quitting on Skeleton Crew. There's been a few people who just haven't been getting along in the movie. It doesn't say anything about actors. It says about crew. But they're saying that it's been a difficult set to work on. And that doesn't ever bode well for a production. I'm excited about this series. We got a little bit of other intel on the series, and the little bit of other intel is that Jude Law is the lead, and that he plays a teacher taking children through a yet uncharted part of the galaxy. And so it's kind of a magic school bus kind of show. And so it's not, it's live action, and it's going to be serious. It interweaves with Ahsoka, is what reports have been saying. But the show is, it's about that, but there's been some trouble. There's been some trouble making it.
Yeah, that's disappointing. But that whole idea sounds really cool. I like the concept of it. Why is it called Skeleton Crew if it's a magic school bus type thing? Do they face some trouble or something, or?
I mean, I gave the magic school bus analogy. Again, it's much more serious than that. But I'm not sure exactly why it's called Skeleton Crew. We don't have a reason for the naming yet. We just know that it's set around the same time as The Mandalorian.
Here, I'm reading some more stuff on it. Star Wars inspired by The Goonies from 1985. So it's going to be like a Treasure Quest type thing.
Right.
That'd be something.
The other speculation is that Jude Law's character plays a young Lor San Tekka, which would be super exciting for us. We got to see his character in The Force Awakens. That was another unrealized part of the plot from The Force Awakens. We never found out who he was in the movies. And so we got to read about him in Shadows of the Sith. And it would be exciting to see what he continues to be up to. Because Shadows of the Sith takes place a significant amount of time after The Mandalorian. Shadows of the Sith takes place 12 years after The Mandalorian. So it's plenty of time for us to kind of see what's going on.
Yeah, so they're filming right now. And the actors like the children in it are teenagers. So it's going to be something. They're not young children. It's going to be something that bridges the gap.
Right. I've heard when this first came out, the very first reports likened it to Stranger Things in that it was kind of a coming-of-age story.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I hope it has some scary elements. Maybe you'll get my kids involved in watching it. It'd be something.
Further into what it's about is that the quote from the same rumor is that the show will explore the origins of the Night Sisters, who are different from the witches they met on Dathomir in the Clone Wars. So there's some Night Sisters lore connection to the Clone Wars there that's gonna be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm pumped. Let's see it.
Yeah, I'm very excited. And that wraps up our HoloNet news segment for this episode. It's been a little bit of a light week surrounding Star Wars news. We're recording this today on the 5th anniversary of The Last Jedi, so there's been a lot of details and a lot of reminiscing about The Last Jedi premiere. I mean, I still remember that premiere. I was with Colin. We got to see that movie together in the theaters with another good buddy of ours. Like, we've seen every Star Wars movie since Rogue One. And so it's been an interesting 5 years since that movie's come out. And the Star Wars fan base is permanently changed in a lot of ways after that movie came out. So it's been an interesting 5 years.
Yeah. Man, I'm pumped. There's too much. That's going to be hard to... I'm glad we have this podcast. We get to process it all in a very educated way, I feel like. You know, we're going to really provide some quality content coming up.
Yep, absolutely. And so, to wrap up, we're going to do, quickly, our Star Wars moment of the week right before the end, like we do this every single week. Colin, what was your Star Wars moment of the week?
So, I'm gonna do the three-peat here. I got an email from Lego about my missing clone trooper. And so I verified that it's coming, but I want to read just a couple sentences from the email that Lego sent me. And it made my day when I got this in the mail. It says, "Hey there. Seems C-3PO switched places with the Stormtrooper, and they meant Clone Trooper, while he was on the run. Don't worry, we're turning this Millennium Falcon around to get you that Clone Trooper back to you. You'll find your trusted ally in Order Yada Yada, and is heading to the Borger, Texas galaxy," that's where I live, "as we speak. We're looking it to be between 7 and 10 Earth days to arrive, even with the hyperdrive going full speed. Thanks again for confirming that the address, and have a bricktastic day." So they took their time to make this email, and it made my day when I got this email, man. It was clever how they did it.
Yeah,
So
that's
fun.
wonderful. That is clever. It's good to hear that. I mean, you know, I said this last time when you talked about this. Lego's just a good company. Like, they care. They have good customer service. They care about their clients. I'm happy that a brand like Lego has been partnered with Star Wars for so long, and that it's given us a lot of great Star Wars product. And so it's always good that they have integrity like that.
Yep. So what's your moment of the week?
My Star Wars moment of the week is I recently won an eBay bid for a set of trade paperbacks. It is the Han Solo trade paperback, Leia trade paperback, Chewbacca trade paperback, and Lando trade paperback. So all of them had limited series comic book runs, 5-issue series comic book runs in the teens worth of years. Lando's came out really early. Lando's came out in 2016, I think, pretty soon after the first movies started coming out. And then the others trickled along. I'd read the Han and the Lando ones, but in single-issue format. And I hadn't read the Chewbacca or the Princess Leia ones. And so I won this bid on eBay as I continue to try and expand my Star Wars bookshelf and continue to try and get more and more of the canon books. And so these 4 trade paperbacks I got at a steal on eBay. And so I was very proud of that. And that is absolutely my Star Wars moment of the week.
Yeah, that's excellent. I want to borrow those at some point. Obviously, you can read them first. I'm not going to jump in.
Yeah.
But
no, you need to check them out. You absolutely should.
Yeah, you can be my Star Wars library. I'll return them. You can charge me late fees.
Yeah, exactly. And so that wraps up the Star Wars Station Communication Podcast this time. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We always appreciate hearing from you listeners. We love the reviews that you leave us on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Nothing helps us more than 5 stars in those places. We appreciate all of the Instagram follows at starwars.station. We appreciate every engagement with one of our tweets at SW_station. All this talk of video games has gotten us so excited. I can't wait to begin streaming again on Twitch. And Colin, what's the name of our Twitch stream?
Station Media. Just type that in. We'll come right up, and you can tune in. Do that notification bell.
Yeah, and you'll see us, like I said, streaming Jedi Survivor. We're both going to be streaming it. We're both really excited to be doing that. Aside from that, you can join us at our Discord. That's the link. That's at the link on our Instagram page. We appreciate engaging with all of y'all in this Star Wars community we're building. We've had a lot of fun, and we continue to have a lot of fun doing this podcast. We've got a lot of exciting episodes coming up for you. We've got a lot of fun specials coming up for you, and there's a lot of Star Wars coming in the new year. So be on the lookout for more Star Wars Station communication.
Hey, thanks everyone for tuning in. It's good to hear from you.
Absolutely. Thank y'all very much for listening, and may the Force be with you.